So after creating the entities layers, we're going to continue with the data access layers, okay, or data access objects there. So we're going to right click on this one, create. The first thing for the data access is that we need to be able to work with the database. So I'm going to right click on this one and going to click on Java class, and we're going to use SQL Utility. Because we need to work with the database. We need to work with the database. Okay? That's why we're going to create one place, one file, one utility to do everything with the database. Then forget about database thing. Okay? So we create a class which is called SQL Utilities. Finish. In this SQL Utilities, in order to work with the database, we need to have at least 3 things. First one is a connections. Second one is to execute a normal query. The third one is to execute a select query. At least you're going to do 3 things. At least you're going to do 3 things for every of your database. So at least you need to provide these 3 functionalities, or at least the 2. Okay, for working, at least you need to have the 2. Okay, so you need to execute a query. You need to execute a query. Let's say insert update delete. Okay, normal query that return nothing. Or you need to execute a query which returns a result set. Let's say. Okay, which return a result set. Okay, so we're gonna do what we're gonna do right now is we're gonna do a private connections. Okay, connection, and remember to choose the Java.SQL connections for the JDBC. We're gonna use JDBC. Okay. Private connections. Remember to use Java connections over here. Okay, gone. Then we're gonna create the constructor. Okay, constructor generate. Okay, all of them it's generated down here already. So for this constructor, if con equal to nonce mean we haven't created. Okay, or con dot is closed, which means we didn't create a connection yet. Whenever you create a new utility, you need to create a connection to work with the database. Okay? And if the connection is no, mean you haven't created, or the connection is closed. Okay? If the connection is closed, okay, you're gonna create a new connection. So con equal to driver manager dot get the connections. Okay? Get the connections. In order to get the connection, you need to provide the URL, the username, and the password. Okay, so this one you need to provide URL, the username, and the password. Okay, so we need to provide string URL equal to what? We need to provide string username equal to user equal to si, string password equal to pass that we had before. Okay, and for this one, for this arrow, we're gonna click on this one and surround the statement with try catch. Okay. Yeah. So in order to create the connection, we're going to do driver manager, get connections, URL, user, password. Okay. Okay, I'm just stop for a while for you to have a look at the code and ask questions if possible. If there is. This one is a basic code for you to get connections. This one is basic code for you to get connections. Okay? Okay? Now, you try to see the code later on as well. Right now, it's just to get the idea of the flow, what I'm doing. Okay? So, whenever you create new utility, you're going to create new connections. Now, you're going to need to execute a normal query. This one is without returning anything. Like inserts, updates, delete queries. So you're gonna create a method public void execute. Okay, you're gonna have a query over here, a command. Okay, you're gonna have a command over here. You're gonna have a command. Then in order to execute a command, you're gonna do a statement. Statement. Remember to choose SQL, Java.SQL statement, not Java.beans or other statements. So stm equal to new, no sorry, not new, from the connection dot create the statement. Okay, from the connection dot create the statement. This one you're gonna surround the statement with try catch. Okay. Now when you create the statements already, execute stm.execute. Not execute query. Okay, execute commands. Done. We finish our first utility method. So later on, you're gonna just use it to work with all of your SQL command. Forget about connecting to the database. Okay. Whatever command you would like to run, just put it to this method, and it's gonna execute for you. Then you can forget about SQL connections. Talking about SQL connection, I forgot one step. I need to provide the URL to our database, but I didn't provide it. Okay. In order to get this URL, you're gonna go to our services, and it is this one. Okay, it is this one. It is JDBC, DB, then localhost, this part, this database name. Just to make it better, you can right click on this one, properties. Then you copy that connection string over here. Copy that connection string over here. Right click, copy. Just Control C to copy if it doesn't have the right click one. Control C to copy. Okay, again, you can right click on this connections, find that connections to your database. You can type again this one, or right click, properties. Then select from this one, not the username. From this one back. Okay, copies. Close. Control C to copy. Then the URL is here now. Okay, the URL is here now. You need to provide the URL to your database. Okay. So now we have the execute method done. Now you have the execute method done. Similarly, besides executing the query like insert, update, delete, you need to execute other queries as well to select some data. Okay, this one. Okay, let's say we're gonna do public, and when you select, it's gonna return you a result set. It's gonna return a result set areas. This one is execute query. Okay, and you're gonna do string commands. String command. Okay, then you're gonna create the statements. Statements stm equal to con dot create statements, and in this case, when you create the statements, you need to have the you need to provide that it is let's say you need to provide, let's just delete this one, control. You need to provide the result set type. Okay, type scroll sensitive, so that you can move back and forth in your result set. Why do you need to move back and forth inside your result set? Probably because you may need to use the result set to do something else later on. It's up to you. Okay, and you should use the second one, which is the concurrency type. Okay, concurrency type, you're gonna use concur update table. Okay. Concurrency type, you're gonna use concur update table. So that you possibly could, if you would like to, use the result set to update your data. Okay. So we're gonna have result set dot type scroll sensitive. That result set dot concur update table. Concur update table, so that you could move back and forth inside your result set to load or to process your data, or you could use the result set to update your data to the database if you would like to. Okay, if you would like to. If you don't like to, just load the data only. Then just create the statement like you created previously here. Okay, so surround this statement with try catch. Then you're going to return statement.execute query from the command dot. Okay, from the command dot. From the command. So again, to work with the database, the things that you need to is just give them the command and they run it for you. Okay, whatever command, just give it and they're gonna execute it for you. Okay? They're going to execute it for you. Okay? And there are two types of command. The command that run and return nothing. And second type is command that run and return the result set. So you create two utilities methods for it. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so now, next thing is that we should limit the numbers of connections. We should limit the number of connections, a live connection to our database. Okay, whenever you create a new utility object, from the constructor over here, you create a new connection objects equal to. Okay. So whenever we don't use this SQL Utility objects anymore, you should delete or close these connections. Okay? You should close this connection if you don't use the SQL Utility anymore. Again, you create a new objects of SQL Utility, you create new connections. Okay? So if you don't use SQL Utility, you should destroy these connections or close these connections. Okay, let me see what is up the errors over here. I should return, otherwise here you should return null. If you have errors or also you should return nulls, okay? To remove the errors over there. Because we need to return a result set. So if you could execute everything, we return the result of execute query. Okay? Otherwise we return nulls. And again, I was explaining, whenever you create a new SQL utility, you create a new connection object. So if you don't use SQL Utility anymore, you should close these connections. So when you do the constructor to create new, now we're going to right click insert code, okay, and you're going to choose overwrite methods. I'm gonna overwrite the destructor. So when you destroy it or when you don't use the SQL Utility object anymore, you should close connections. And when do you the constructor is to create new. The destructor is the method, you're going to override the method finalize. Okay? The method finalize. Okay? This method finalize will be called when you destroy or when you not use SQL Utility anymore. Okay? So for this one, we're going to try to, okay, con.close. Okay, con.close. Okay, con.close. We're gonna try to close, and we are not gonna. Yeah, find it. Okay, con.close. Con.close. Let me see what is this one. find it. Okay, conduct close. So you try to close the connections. Try to close the connections if you don't use SQL Utility anymore. Okay. So we just complete a very important steps. So in entities already, in data access object, we're gonna make use of one important class which help us to work with the database. So right now you would like to run any kind of queries, just give them to either execute or execute query. Okay, execute or execute query from this utility. Okay. Later on we're gonna create more down classes. Okay. Okay. More down classes. Let me just pause this video so because we stopped at one important milestone already.